The Memphis Grizzlies, a small market team who has never really been a hub for free agents. When Tony Allen is the best player to have ever signed from free agency to your team, that says something. Meaning no disrespect to Tony Allen, he was an exceptional defender. But for a team that has never had any big free agency signings, the Grizzlies making the playoffs 7 times out of the last 10 and being terrible as a team for only 2 years is very impressive. Today, I want to talk about how great of a job the Grizzlies front office has done in the recent past since the end of the grit and grind era. Let's get into it.
They be like, what? Can you teach me how to dirty? You know why? Cause all the bitches love it. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it.
Leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I drop regular NBA content and I have a series called the greatest playoff runs ever going on right now. I dropped the first video about it recently about Giannis Antetokounmpo's 2021 run, and I'd really appreciate if you checked it out. Moving on back to the video. The 2017-18 season was the last year the Memphis Grizzlies were in the grit and grind era. Due to an injured Mike Conley playing only 12 games this season and with Marc Gasol regressing due to his old age, this was their first non-playoff season in a long time. Missing the playoffs with the record of 22-60 and ending up at the 14th seed in the West this year. After getting the 4th pick in a loaded 2018 draft due to this record, they drafted a very talented young power forward in Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson has been showing immense two-way potential since he's come into the league. He averaged 14, 5 and 1.5 blocks as a rookie and made the all-rookie team. Improved in his second year on a much more competitive team with the Grizzlies, putting up 17, 5 and 1.6 blocks as a sophomore, taking 6.5 threes per game on a well above average 40% from 3. His tendency to foul regularly was showing up more and more, as he averaged 4 fouls per game in his second season, and his injury-prone body couldn't play to 82 games until now. But the potential he has shown and the ceiling he has of possibly being a very good stretch big in the league and playing the franchise center role is amazing. He also fits perfectly alongside the player they've decided to be their franchise star, and that's very amazing for the Grizzlies. The same 2018 offseason, the Grizzlies signed a fan-favorite player and a very skilled and underrated small forward in Kyle Anderson, who's been a big part of their success since then. And in the same 2018-19 season, with Jaren Jackson developing and showing big flashes to become a star, they traded away their franchise star until then in Marc Gasol during the trade deadline to a contender in Toronto in return for Jonas Valanciunas, Dillon Wright and CJ Miles. Valanciunas has also been a big part of the Grizzlies' success since then. He's a perfect fit alongside both Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. He provides them much required defense and a big body in the paint, which is very much required alongside Jaren Jackson Jr., who still fouls very often. Jonas Valanciunas is a very skilled offensive player who averaged 20 points per game the 20 games he played with the Grizzlies after the 2018-19 trade deadline. He had a great following season and was a very underrated addition to this developing team. With this team just put together and an expiring Mike Conley, who was the final remains of the grit and grind era, the Grizzlies had another bad season. This would be their last bad season when they ended up with a record of 33-49 and the 12th seed in the West. With a 6.3% chance of getting the second pick in the 2019 draft, this team, with all the luck in the world, jumped up to the second pick in this other stacked draft. This was when they picked the franchise player and a young budding star in Ja Morant. Morant has been phenomenal since the get-go. He won the Rookie of the Year, and rightfully so, with an injured Zion that year. He was one of the reasons the Grizzlies went from the 12th seed to a borderline playoff team within a year. I really don't know what Ja's ceiling is. The promise he showed against an elite defense in the playoffs against Utah and his ability to carry the load of an entire offense on his back is something very great and positive for the Grizzlies. He didn't take a drastic jump the regular season, but I'm really excited for what's to come for Ja Morant. But the main reason this Grizzlies front office needs to be praised is for the picks they made which weren't stars in the draft. Firstly, they made trades where they got Grayson Allen, a solid starter in the league when he was just a throw-in for the Mike Conley trade. They picked Dillon Brooks, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league right now, with the 45th pick in a draft. They took a chance on DeAnthony Melton, one of the most underrated players in the league right now. They picked Brandon Clark, the best backup power forward in the league, who was considered too old of a player to be taken in the first round. Even the 2020 draft, they picked players who other team barely spent time on even scouting. They picked two very NBA ready players who could have played in these finals too, in my opinion, in Desmond Bane and Xavier Tillman Jr. Give the Grizzlies any pick from 1 to 60 and I promise you they'll pick a player which will turn out to be something or the other in this league. Also, I like the trade they made for Jonas Valanciunas, where they got Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, pick number 10 and pick number 40. They probably will pick someone like Josh Giddey or Moses Moody, who are perfect Memphis players. Even if they move up, they'll put another great player alongside Ja. Valanciunas would probably get a contract he really isn't worth after the season he had, and leaving that for the Pelicans to decide, and replacing him with a very solid starting center who sets one of the hardest screens in the league in Steven Adams is not bad at all. The Grizzlies are showing everyone in the league what a perfect rebuild is, surrounding their star with young NBA players who are great fits alongside him. They haven't necessarily been a bad team for more than 1.5 years, and they still managed to put up a playoff caliber roster in the stacked Western Conference. Imagine what they would have been in the Eastern Conference for that matter. They have one of the best front offices in the league and deserve a lot of credit for what they're doing as such a small market team. That's all I have for you today. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I drop very regular NBA content, and please check out my video on Giannis. It's my best video yet, and I promise you won't be disappointed.